2 $500 scholarships to LWSD staff to support their continuing education. Before we introduce our amazing award recipients, I'd like to take a moment to introduce and thank our Scholarship Committee Chair, Brooke Galapsos, for her work in coordinating the program this year. Brooke oversaw everything from the advertising of the program to the application process, to the judging process, and even tonight, with help from the council board, the reception and the ceremony that we're enjoying tonight. So thank you so much, Brooke. And now, Brooke, along with Denise Ferguson, Kristen Dorwin, and Manda Mangrai, will be announcing and introducing our award recipients.
Sorry, I'm a little bit shorter. Hi, thank you for that lovely introduction. I am Brooke Galapsos, as she mentioned, and I'm pleased to introduce the recipients of our 2023 scholarship program. The students and staff have accomplished amazing things despite the ongoing challenges during and after a global pandemic. I'm excited to share more about these inspiring individuals. So our first staff scholarship recipient is Kayla Fonte. Kayla, if you can come up and walk over to Yumna, please. Kayla teaches middle school special education in the Inglewood Middle School Transition Program. She's continuing her education through a Master of Science in Curriculum and Instruction. Her focus is curriculum that prioritizes teaching safety skills to people with disabilities. Kayla has been teaching in the district for 7 years and is also a graduate of Margaret Mead Elementary, Inglewood Middle, and Eastlake High School. Please join me in congratulating Kayla. Our next staff scholarship recipient, Benjamin Hart, is a science teacher at Redmond High School and the father of 4 children and 2 boys at Einstein Elementary School. While teaching at Redmond, his desire to make a broader impact on students has grown. In January 2023, he started in the Educational Leadership Program at Seattle Pacific University to pursue a residency P through 12 principal certificate. Benjamin wants to use this role as principal to strengthen socio-emotional learning, equitably support academic achievement, and create a healthy school climate. Please join me in congratulating Benjamin. Now I will present our student scholarship recipients, beginning with our Perseverance Scholarship winners. This award is given to a student who is well-rounded, community member, and can show excellence in their life and their academics in the face of hardships or a challenging life circumstance. Our first recipient is unable to be here tonight, but our first recipient is Raphael Jr. Fairdrason Egbenyu. As a student at Juanita High School, he is proud of the amount of time and dedication that he has devoted to his studies. This enabled him to score all A's. He plans on attending Lake Washington Institute of Technology to study dental hygiene. Please join me in congratulating Raphael. The next recipient of a Perseverance Scholarship is Ty Hale, who attends Juanita High School. Ty considers high school a transformative experience of self-discovery and personal growth. He recalls going from one of the slowest swimmers on the swim team to team captain. He fondly remembers learning American history with Mr. Bennett and will never forget the time he exploded a glass bottle during art and had to stay up to clean his mess. He is attending Gonzaga University to study pre-law. Please join me in congratulating Ty. And now I'm going to pass it off to Amanda.
All right. Thank you, Denise. Okay, let me just figure out where I am. Here we go. Okay. Our next scholarship is the Turnaround Scholarship, which is presented to a student who has significantly improved their academic record. This year's recipient of the Turnaround Scholarship is Jaden Namvong from Juanita High School. Some of his highlights from high school include spending time with friends during football and track, as well as working out in the weight room in the summer. Jaden is planning on attending Washington State University to study computer science. Please join me in congratulating Jaden. Our next scholarship is the Lake Washington Education Association Teeley Scholarship, which is presented to a student planning to pursue a career in the field of education. This year's Teeley recipient is Emily Wren from Redmond High School. She played soccer for a year, was a four-year athlete for basketball, and served as the varsity team captain. Emily has a 4.0 GPA, is a member of the National Honor Society and ASL Honor Society, and completed an internship in SLP and a year-long teaching internship as well. In June, she will receive her Washington OSPI Paraeducator Certification. Emily will attend Western Washington University for a degree in Communication Sciences and Disorder. Please join me in congratulating Emily. Our next scholarship is given to a student planning to attend a 2-year vocational or technical school. This year's recipient is Alia Osman, sorry if I pronounce this wrong, Osman Boy from Redmond High School. One of Alia's biggest highlights from high school was being part of a leadership class for the past 4 years. Alia also participated in band, arts, and sports. She is looking forward to spending 2 years at Bellevue College and working towards transferring to a 4-year university to complete her degree. Please join me in congratulating Alia. And now I'll hand it off to Denise Ferguson.
Our next set of scholarships are from Merit, which includes academic achievement, community service, extracurricular participation, and leadership. 2 awards are given out per learning community, with the student's learning community is determined by their home address. Our first set of Merit scholarships are for the East Lake Learning Community. Our first recipient is Kate Powlett from East Lake High School. Throughout her high school experience, Kate has enjoyed competing in the East Lake Mock Trial Team, running the Horticultural Club, and volunteering at local cat shelters. More recently, Kate has enjoyed being involved in the drama program at East Lake and taking her first psychology course through UW. Kate will attend the University of Toronto this fall, where she plans to study psychology. Please join me in congratulating Kate. Our next recipient is Anjali Srinivas from Tesla STEM High School. Throughout high school, Anjali has been actively participating in and leading her school's Science Olympiad Club, working on computational biology research centered around neurodegenerative diseases, and programming for her competitive VEX robotics team. She loves to sing Indian Carnatic music and American pop and plays badminton. Anjali will be attending college at Stanford University in order to study computer science. Please join me in congratulating Anjali. Our next 2 recipients are from the Juanita Learning Community. First is Ellie Hinnebush from Juanita High School. Her highlights from high school were being able to get more involved in the community through basketball and track and field, Juanita High School student government, youth group, working as a lifeguard, and volunteering at Robert Frost Elementary. She will be attending Whitworth University next year for track and field and majoring in kinesiology. Please Join me in congratulating Ellie. Our next recipient is Austin Pisenich from Juanita High School. Austin is unable to attend tonight as he is being honored for the Kirkland Rotary Scholarship. When Austin was a freshman, he got his Washington State business license for his art business. In 10th grade, Austin was the DECA state champion for his business growth plan. Over the past 4 years, he has had booths at 44 art festivals, and his art is carried in 58 shops across the state. He has led over 370 volunteers, painting 3 Save Our Salmon murals, which have been featured in the local news. Austin will be majoring in marketing at the University of Washington's Foster School of Business next fall. Even though he's not here tonight, would you please join me in congratulating Austin?
Okay, now we'll move on to the Lake Washington Learning Community. Our first recipient is Vernon Lumpkin from Lake Washington High School. Vernon was really involved with in-school clubs and organizations, including Key Club, varsity tennis, and varsity soccer. As a soccer captain this year, he helped the team win Kinko for the first time in school history. Vernon is also the managing director of Ignite Robotics and worked for the city of Kirkland, supporting their sustainability efforts. Vernon plans on attending the University of Washington to study computer science. Please join me in congratulating Vernon. Our next recipient is Shelly Netz from Tesla STEM High School. Shelly started her high school career at freshman camp, led by the school's Link Crew leaders, and finished her high school career as a Link Crew leader, coming full circle. Along the way, Shelly started her own business, volunteered at schools, tutored, led the clubs she joined freshman year, got her first job and first promotion, and discovered her love for art. Shelly cannot wait to continue her artistic journey as a graphic design major at Chapman University. Please join me in congratulating Shelly. In the Redmond Learning Community, the first recipient is Lindsay Graves from Redmond High School. Lindsay is an active member of Student Council, Varsity Soccer, the DECA Business and Marketing Club, and both National and Spanish Honor Societies. She was the 2021 FBI National Academy Youth Leadership Program delegate, as well as an appointed member to the City of Redmond Community Equity Action Team and the Mayor's Public Safety Levy Sounding Board. She will attend the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania, where she plans on a concentration in management. Please join me in congratulating Lindsay. Our next recipient is Ria Mohan from Juanita High School. Ria has her heart set on becoming a surgeon for underserved populations. As part of reaching this goal, she conducted 2 major research projects. Additionally, she founded the Trio Youth Ambassadorship for Organ and Tissue Donation Awareness and directs the podcast, How to Save 8 Lives at Once, to highlight the life-saving power of organ donation. Ria volunteered at the Swedish Medical Center as a junior health scholar and served as a sidewalker at Little Bit Therapeutic Riding Center. Ria will be attending Virginia Commonwealth University. Please join me in congratulating Ria.
Hi again. Our next recipient is Mateo Dro from Lake Washington High School, who is receiving one of our at-large scholarships. Throughout high school, Mateo completed and succeeded in numerous AP and honors classes, including the AP Capstone program. He competed in varsity baseball, volunteered at Kirkland American Little League, and also sorted produce at local food banks. During Mateo's senior year, he launched his personal auto detailing business. He will be attending Edmonds College next year to play baseball. He plans to attain a general education and then transfer to a 4-year school to pursue a degree in business or sports science. Please join me in congratulating Mateo. Our last recipient is unable to be here tonight as it conflicted with her WANIC graduation. We were debating that. Our last recipient is Kazuki Ishiyama, a student at Redmond High School who is receiving one of our at-large scholarships. During her high school career, she enjoyed growing as a student and individual when growing through many ups and downs. Kazuki discovered her passion for nursing through WANIC, and will be studying nursing at Seattle University. Even though she is unable to be here, please join me in congratulating Kazuki. And now I will turn it over to Yumna for our closing remarks.
Thank you so much to Brooke, Kristen, Denise, and Manda. Our scholarship program would not be possible without the support of our 44 local PTAs. It would not be possible without the support of the college and career specialists at all of our high schools who encourage students to apply. We have a wonderful partnership with the Schools Foundation, with the district, with the Lake Washington Education Association that funds one of our scholarships. So thank you so much for all of your support. I would also like to thank our 18 judges, as well as the 2 volunteers who redacted all of our scholarship applications, Andrea Stepani and Elena Sellers. They are here tonight in the back of the room. Thank you to Brooke, our scholarships chair, to all of the volunteers who helped with tonight's celebration, and to all of the staff and students who submitted applications for these scholarships. In closing, thank you to the families and the special individuals in the lives of the award winners. You have encouraged them, you have supported them, you have loved them. You are an important part of their story. So everyone, please join me in congratulating all of you on this wonderful accomplishment. I should probably add that if you would like to leave at this time, you certainly may.
As you go, just want to say thank you all very much and congratulations on the excellent work and best of success for you in the future. And make sure to pick up one of the mini bundt cakes out there. They really are tasty. All right, well, that settles at this point. We'll go on with our meeting. Our next item on our agenda is public comment. The Board of Directors of Lake Washington School District welcomes the public to the business meetings of our board and does encourage community engagement. There are many ways to interact with the board members. You can do it individually, you can email us, or you can also come to a public board meeting in which to do so. We do dedicate 30 minutes at our regular board meeting to hear from the public. Members of the public can sign up to participate in public comments on the district website. One can participate in person, virtually, or through email. Sign-up does close at noon on the day of the board meeting, and in-person virtual comments will be offered in the order of sign-up. All written comments are included in the board minutes. With that, just to give a heads up for those who are here for public comment, we do have a 3-light system that will just let you know. So you do have about 3 minutes in which to speak, and we ask you just to be able to stay within that time. When the light goes red, if you could just wrap up at that point, if by chance it gets there. All right? So our first person we have signed up this evening is Ashlyn Owa Kachikis. And if you can just quickly introduce yourself when you come up, that would be fabulous. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, board members and audience. Thanks for having me and thanks for listening. My teacher name is Ms. OK. Another one of my names is Ashlyn Owen Kachikis. I have worked as a special educator and IEP case manager in Lake Washington School District's Learning Center model, Resource Room model, and Inclusion Pilot model for the last 6 years. I intentionally wear a shirt that reads, "We all belong." I did this to set the tone for my why. I am here tonight. I posted my learning target for everyone. Those of you that cannot see it, I will read it for you. Board member and audience, you can reasonably include personnel and decisions that affect them. That is Board Policy 4.11. And you can also listen and act on requests from 15 Lake Washington staff members from 11 schools. That is 2 classified staff members, myself, and 12 other classified staff. With a focus on preparation for all elementary students to return to their neighborhood schools for the 2023-2024 school year, aka inclusion, Board Policy 4.9, is to assure that all staff members are qualified and trained to perform the responsibilities assigned to them. And here I am now going to start sharing the voices of 15 of your staff members. Understanding that every IEP team member can and should provide specially designed instruction, SDI. Every teacher's planning and instruction time is valuable. Paraeducators help the certified teacher in the classroom and need frequent supervision and guidance. Many Lake Washington School District schools are physically non-inclusive for students, such as not having changing spaces for safe toileting. Many students are medically complex and require a lot of equipment for success at school. Job responsibilities and expectations between IEP team members in written format across the district. For example, reasonable time to modify work and assessments that are both meaningful and connected to current unit of studies in general education. Another point is who provides the paraeducator breaks, especially when they are supporting students with one-to-one staffing and or complex learners. This was mentioned by 3 staff members. To implement full inclusion successfully, we must reduce class size. As a 4th grade teacher, my entire grade level started the year in remedy. With our current staffing levels, we are expected to do the same again next year, and same with our 5th grade team. This does not set teachers or students up for success. Does red light mean stop talking?
It does mean wrap up as quickly as you
Wrap
can.
up. I have a lot more to say.
You are more than welcome to email that to us.
I will definitely email, and I think there's one more meeting in June. Great. You'll see me then.
But please do email it.
I will definitely. Thank you, everyone, for your consideration. And in summation, we all belong.
Thank you. The next individual I have signed up is Samantha Rooster. I don't see her today. Okay, so the next person is Andrei Stasiak. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, dear board. Thanks for listening. I want to bring back to focus the issue of middle school start times. Other parents and I have presented and reached out about this issue before, but today I wanted to ask you just one simple question on behalf of middle school families. As a reminder, adopting the Start Times Committee recommendation, Dr. Holman said the research basis for this change was compelling and clear around the benefits for our high school age students. It's hard to argue with that, but going back to the original sources, here are the statements from the leading US medical authorities. American Academy of Pediatrics raises public health issue that significantly affects our nation's middle and high school students. Evidence strongly implicates earlier school start times before 8:30 a.m. as a key modifiable contributor to insufficient sleep. American Academy of Sleep Medicine is calling on community school boards, educational institutions to implement start times of 8:30 a.m. or later for middle schools and high schools. American Medical Association encourages school districts to aim for the start of middle and high schools to be no earlier than 8:30 a.m. Society for Behavioral Medicine recommends school officials start middle and high school classes at 8:30 a.m. or later. Even Center for Disease Control talks about a large percentage of middle school and high school students who do not get enough sleep and recommends delaying school start times for both age groups. As parents, we do not understand why, against compelling research evidence, the well-being of one group of students was prioritized over the other, especially when this other group officially needs to sleep 1 to 2 hours more, according to the same medical authorities. The change was not based on community consensus either. As presented before, we have independently read through all comments on thought exchanges and found that only 2% of thoughts in the first one talked about an earlier start for middle schools. In the second one, only 11 thoughts, that is less than 1%, explained their preference for option 1, independently from other choices. The vast majority picked us as a forced alternative to outrageously early start times for elementary schools. To put it bluntly, middle school families lost the voting battle against elementary families, being outnumbered twofold, while high students had nothing to lose in both options, which is hardly a fair and equitable way to make a decision. To quote Dr. Holman again, I also recognize and acknowledge our work is not done. I believe we all share a desire to optimize the experiences for all students across the system. So our question to you, the district, the board, Dr. Holman, is when? When can we expect this health and well-being of all student groups to be taken equally seriously in accordance with scientific consensus and public opinion? Thank you.
Thank you. Our next individual is Linda Yang. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So, dear board members, I appreciate that the board discussed my concerns about OE 14 at the May 22nd board meeting. I want to follow up and comment tonight regarding the revised OE 14.
Linda, if you could hold on for just 1 minute, we can't.
Oh, okay. Okay, you want me to start from beginning? Yes, please. Okay, thanks. So, dear board members, I appreciate that the board discussed my concerns about OE 14 at the May 22nd board meeting. I want to follow up and comment tonight regarding the revised OE 14. It is my understanding the board may vote on that tonight. Myself and many others from my background and community are deeply concerned about OE 14-4 and OE 14-5, which pertain to academic coursework and education programs. We're seeking clear statement from the district in OE 14 and its interpretation that ensure all students, including Asian students, have an equal opportunity to enroll in popular courses such as AP or popular programs such as Quest or Choice schools without being subject to any proportionality cap based on race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin. The superintendent interpretation of OE 14-4 uses language, increased rate of underrepresented population as measured proportionally. We believe that this implies a quota system. Furthermore, the superintendent interpretation of OE 14-5 uses language should not be disproportional on the basis of demographic categories. This undeniably imposes quotas. It is important to note that the voter approved and reaffirmed the Washington Civil Rights Act explicitly prohibits discrimination and preferential treatment based on race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin. I urge the board to carefully discuss the scenario where there are more students applying for a given class or program than the class or program can admit. In the interest of meeting the equity goal, will certain student groups be given priority enrollment? Quest is a merit-based program, and choice schools operate through a lottery system. Neither should be subject to any quota. Although the district cannot accept unlimited number of students into Quest or choice schools, it can, at the very least, ensure a fair process where no preferential treatment will be given. I would also like to suggest 2 additional compliance measures for OU 14-4. Conduct a survey of student classroom experience. Ask if they feel bored or not challenged enough in the classroom. Also conduct a survey of parents' opinions to determine if they believe the classroom experience is adequately challenging for their students. This is especially important as elementary school students may be too young to advocate for themselves. Lastly, I want to draw the board's attention to the issue of equity for immigrant families. Many of these families come from cultures and educational systems that are different significantly from those in the U.S. As a result, there is a tremendous barrier for them to effectively engage with the school and the district. Their voices are largely missing. Thank you.
Thank you, and appreciate your flexibility with technology.
Thank you.
So our next individual up is Tatiana Boggs.
Members of the board, my name is Tatiana Boggs, and I'm the choir director at Juanita High School and Finn Hill Middle School. I'm here to address the events that have led to my resignation and raise concerns in regards to the district's commitment or lack thereof to music students. A number of us came here on April 24th to communicate our concerns because our programs are not being supported. Since then, the Juanita Jazz Choir was cut, a choir in which the district videotaped highlighting the students' excellence and involvement in the program. The video received over 4,000 views with countless positive comments from the community. The description of the video states how the ensemble prepares them for continuing their musical journeys while in high school and beyond. Despite my attempts to advocate for the opportunity for students to develop advanced musicianship skills, it was decided by our administration that this was not valuable enough to our school, our program, and our students. Though we claim to ensure our students are future ready, we have just removed that opportunity from these students. I would like to highlight Bill ESSB 5878, a Washington state education law that went into effect on June 9th, 2022, that states that art instruction must be accessible by all students in a manner that is commensurate with instruction in other core subject areas. Removing the opportunity for growth and upward mobility is not commensurate with core subject areas. It also states that arts instructors shall be consulted and given an equal part in the decision process to determine which specific visual and performing arts courses to offer at given grade levels. I was not consulted. I would have considered myself lucky for there to have been any clear communication from my administration, and I would considered myself lucky for our administration to have seen one performance from the program being cut. Not only are our opportunities being removed from our students, our district is not adhering to state law. In addition, our music department had to surplus 1.0 FTE, which has resulted in myself being placed to teach middle school orchestra, removing the high school choir from my schedule with the only other option being to teach high school orchestra due to scheduling constraints. Though I have a general music endorsement along with my secondary choral endorsement, I have no experience playing a string instrument and I have no business being in an orchestra classroom. I do, however, have years of extensive training and experience in choral education, and that is where I have and would have best served our students. It is blatantly clear that the district does not make decisions that best serve our students. The value that teachers bring into the district and the strengths that we bring into the classroom are being completely overlooked, dismissed, and disregarded. There are people in our district that are highly qualified to teach orchestra, just as I am highly qualified to teach choir. There are clear and significant opportunity gaps in our district due to the lack of support and interest in contributing to students' growth in music education. I hope that situations like this can shed light on how decisions being made in regard to the performing arts in our district are not serving our students. Though I'm choosing to leave LWSD, you can be certain that I will remain a steady advocate for these students as I continue my own education at the University of Washington for my doctorate in choral conducting. Thank you for having allowed me to serve our students for the past 5 years, and I hope to see continual improvement and change for our performing arts programs and choral students in this district moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person we have signed up is Nancy Huen.
Hi, my name is Nancy Wynn. I'm the mother of a student at Sammamish River Valley Online School. The online school is a high-needs school with a 38% poverty rate. At the last board meeting, I shared with you the moral reasons for keeping this school open. Now I'm going to share with you the legal reasons why this school should not be allowed to be closed by the district. The district did not follow the process required for school closures per state law, RCW 28A 335020. And if you're taking notes on that, I gave to Ms. Harding a copy of the law for each of you. The law requires the board to conduct public hearings 90 days before closing a school and provide a written analysis of the impact of the proposed closure. This law was designed to protect the public from unnecessary or unexplained school closures and give the public some agency. Neither of these things occurred. Therefore, I believe the closing is unlawful. This school closure law only applies to schools, not programs. A little bit of a loophole. My opinion is that the district circumvented the law by suddenly calling the online school a program. First, the district said on their budget update on February 13th that they wouldn't close any schools. Next, they closed the online school on March 23rd by claiming it was a program. It's a school. It has a school code. It has a principal. It's on OSPI as a school. It's not a program. On April 23rd, a Como News reporter called out the district. They challenged the district's justification of closing the school by claiming it's a program. In response, a district spokesperson admitted that the online school is in fact a school, and that the superintendent apologized for calling it a program. I also gave to Ms. Harding a copy of that article for you to look at. If mislabeling the school as a program was truly a mistake, then why didn't the district immediately start the legal process, the 90-day hearing? If I make a mistake, I take accountability. I go overboard to rectify it. I acknowledge my mistake. That leads me to believe that this is disingenuous. If you knew it was a school, go through the legal process. It's required. The bottom line is that the board is absolutely required to intervene in this situation when a superintendent commits an unlawful action. Per the board policy on governing culture, GC1, and operations expectations, OE1. I understand the superintendent has a wide latitude to meet results and operational expectations, but I read the policy for governing culture and operation expectations, and the board president and the board has to intervene when an unlawful action. You have the authority to stop the school being closed. I'm asking to remedy the situation immediately because otherwise we've lost all our teachers. We've lost all our students. If you don't, then the district is at increased legal risk because this law has been violated. So thank you for the time. I hope you think about this. I've given copies of everything I've referenced today for you to look at. Thank you for your time and your service.
Thank you. That is the end of the individuals we currently have signed up for public comment. We did receive written comment in regards to OE 14 as well, similar to the issues around that you heard tonight from Linda Yang in regards to the proportionality concern in 14.4 and 14.5. And then there was also one in regards to the Quest programs and choice schools also falling under that. So thank you all for coming, and with that, we will move on. So our next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. So I will now entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move approval. I ask for moving of the item.
I'm sorry, Director Stewart, did you second that?
No, I was asking for removal of an item. He was a bit faster than I was.
I'm sorry, you asked for the removal of?
Number 11.
Surplus?
Mm-hmm. It seems like we have an inappropriate timing for the tents. It seems like we're dumping tents at a fraction
So
of the cost.
hold on just 1 second so that we can just make sure this goes through. So you're asking for the removal of item 11
Yes, ma'am.
from the consent agenda. Do I have a second in which to do so?
So be it.
Okay, hearing none, then the item then stays on the consent agenda for that. Any other requests?
No, I was just going to second Director of Liberty's motion.
Okay, so it has been moved by Director La Liberty and seconded by Director Carlson to approve the consent agenda as put forward. And Dr. Holman, will you pull the board?
So will. Director La Liberty,
Yes.
Director Stewart,
Yep.
Director Carlson,
Yes.
and President Bleasner.
Yes. I would like to highlight just one piece is OE 14 was on that consent agenda. We did have some public comment tonight. Our superintendent will be taking that into account as we look through those indicators. In 14.4 and 14.5, we have had discussions around. There is clear guidance from the board and very specific in regards to the proportionality is not in regards to a quota. It is about increasing access and availability. So those are sort of the pieces that we're working with. But we did hear that and wanted to make sure that that was clear in that regard. Any questions on that? Okay, so our next item is the non-consent agenda. Our first item, we will be moving to a variety of policies this evening. I did just want to give a reminder that we did on May 22nd unanimously adopt the GC10 Digital and Social Media Board Member Code of Conduct policy. Last December at our board self-assessment meeting, the board did determine it was important to develop such guidelines to assure that board members were able to comply with Open Public Meetings Acts as well as the Public Records Acts while engaging through digital and or social media. Through these policies, we agreed to parameters on how to engage through social media and digital and limitations on that engagement during a board meeting. As this is a new policy, I do ask please sure to review that carefully to ensure compliance with the newly agreed upon codes of conduct. So I just wanted to put that out there. So we will move forward with the policy, onto our policy revisions. They were all provided in the board materials. They're all up for first reading tonight. So this will allow for the opportunity for clarification and discussion of potential revisions of that policy going forward. They will then come back at the June 20 board meeting for potential on the consent agenda, if not a lot of changes, or if there are, then would come back on the regular agenda to be read. So to start with, we're going to start with the operational governance policies. And are you going to be able to post those as we walk through them? We currently have 4 of those policies that have been revised. Part of this was, if you remember, about a year and a half ago, we had a policy revision committee created in order to go through these to look at in regards to updating and aligning them in regards to the work we had done with equity and different components. So for OGP2, that's on the school board elections and qualifications. The revisions made to that were to be more specific, actually, to where information can be found, as well as candidate activities proposed. And a lot of that really is, there was not a lot of content change as much as just explaining it, especially as we have elections coming up. We wanted to make sure that any new candidates would be able to find that information as well. And should I just walk through all of them, or do you want to do each one at a time? Oh, Director Stewart.
Would like to, I think just for the edification of the parents and students watching, since we have a board member who is going to be resigning before the end of his term, could we just review orally? And I know it's a sections there, and I can read it, you can read it, but I think it'd be helpful to the people within the district to hear it and to have a discussion of it, just so everyone's clear.
Do you mean in regard to a vacancy filament? Is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
what you're speaking
Yes,
to?
ma'am.
Okay.
That's where I'm going. The idea of it being unique, I don't remember one in 10 years, so.
What I would like to do, if you're okay, is go ahead and walk through the policy and to approve as is, and let's hold that conversation and be able to put it at the end with board comments, just so that we can be able to put it. Does that make sense? Okay. So any desire to change anything within OGP2 or any questions?
No.
Okay.
I appreciate, these were also provided to us in board briefs in advance. I expect everyone's had an opportunity to read all of it in advance. I don't think we need to go line by line through it.
Okay. So then I will just...
Can I commend you on one, or I assume I know you were on the committee. Can I commend you on one thing before we go further, though?
Yes.
Since I just complained about you reading line by line.
I did not read my line, but go ahead.
I do appreciate having embedded in the policy the expectation that those who are candidates for the school board, that the superintendent will provide a sort of orientation in advance so that they are familiar with the work of the board. I think that's really important. I think it's important to have in our policy. I think it's a great addition, so thank you for doing that.
Okay, so we can keep that piece. All right, any other questions or clarification in OGP2? Okay, so my thought is we'll just, you know what, I'm just going to take a motion to approve OGP. Oh, nope, it's just first reading. OGP3, moving on, sorry, my mistake. So this one is board meetings. You'll see there's definitions within there. You will note there's the addition of a land acknowledgement to be included on the agenda, as that was a piece, so now it is actually included into our policy as a standard. We clarified how public comment was now being conducted in order to align with the practice we now have, and included, this is a new one that I wanted to give you a heads up, the option for interpretation for public comment if it was so desired by the individual. So that way we give opportunity for individuals whose native, they would like to provide it in their primary language if so desired. Any questions on OGP3? No?
Yeah, I actually did on this one, and on the interpreter part in particular.
I would assume. Go ahead.
I think it's a good idea. I worry that in the policy right now that we are creating the expectation that we will provide an interpreter if one is requested. I think that we should strive to do that, but
do you have a recommendation of how you would like to see that written within the policy?
So that, if possible, arrangements for the interpreter can be made.
Do you see challenges finding an interpreter?
I don't remember how many languages are spoken in our district.
100 plus.
100 plus. I see challenges for some of those languages finding an interpreter.
So our schools are able to use a variety of methods, some in person, some telephonic, and so I would say we should be able to use those same strategies for the board meeting. And so you can imagine there's some languages that are interpreters are more readily available. Okay. And there's others that are not. And so if someone gave us advance notice, we'd be able to do that relatively, I think, easily.
Wow.
Just as our schools do right now.
Okay. I'll hold you to that. Great. All right, I'm fine then. I'm fine with it. Given that information from Dr. Holman, I wasn't aware that we had access to so many interpreters. So, okay, great.
Any other questions on OGP3? Okay, OGP4 did not have any changes, just so you know, that was about quorum. OGP5, annual board meeting. This was just to revise it to align with the governing commitment on how the legislative rep is selected, as well as to the roles there. OGP 6 is orientation of directors, and this added specific details to this component in regards to topic areas and information for the orientation of new board directors. Again, especially with a shift that we have coming up, that seemed valuable to have that sort of explicitly stated so that at least there's some expectation for that orientation. Any questions on that? Anything that was missing? Okay. So, being that there were not really any additional changes to be made or questions, and I assume that these can be placed on the consent agenda for the June 20 meeting to be able to go forward? Okay.
Okay.
And so with that, we will move on to our next item. So thank you. That was a while in coming through a variety of different things, so glad to be able to get those pieces into place. So our next item is operational expectation 11, as well as following that will be results 2. You notice that we've tried to put these together. So we'll be doing OE 11 first. Did they change it on my agenda? I'm okay either way. My script said OE 11. I apologize. So, do you have a preference? OE 11's good? Okay, so we'll start with OE 11.
So
Dr. Holman.
Yes. And so, as the board knows, we've been doing work around OE 11 and results 2, given the interconnected nature of the instructional program and the academic results that the board is targeting. And so, the board has held multiple study sessions related to both OE 11 and results 2. And tonight is the first reading of the updated policies, interpretation, and indicators. And Dr. Jen Rose is here to walk us through. We'll start with OE 11 and then go to results 2 and consider this the first reading. And so, Dr. Rose, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you. So it makes sense to start with OE 11, and we'll get that up there. Yep. It makes sense to start with OE 11 because there's been a lot of work and thinking around OE 14, OE 11, and R2 being very interrelated. And so what you'll see as we get into OE 11 is a focus on encapsulating our academic program in a way that reflects effective practices and our goals for students and how that works into thinking about our learning. So as we went through OE 11, and I'm just going to present from the document itself, one of the things that we've talked about in our study sessions is OE 11 did not have a preamble before, that it went straight into the indicators for the academic program. And as we discussed, it was really important to be able to frame all of the thinking that is in OE 11 is framed with the thinking here in the preamble to set the tone and set the stage for the kind of learning and for the kind of program that we want for our students. So that was one of the major changes that we made. What you'll see as we go through the rest of the presentation is we also shifted the language in almost every component to be more updated and aligned with current research. Some of the language had been somewhat outdated or not as active as we wanted. In many places, it was somewhat of a passive voice, and we wanted to capture that our academic program is very dynamic and focused on effective practice. You'll also see, as I said in here, you'll see alignment to OE 14 and thinking about multiple measures for all of our students in both in terms of their outcomes and success that you'll see in R2, and in terms of the description of the academic program really aligns with OE 14. OE 14 in some ways captures outcomes as well. This describes many of the instructional practices that we're thinking about. We also expanded because OE 11 had been somewhat narrow, and as we shifted R2 to be more narrow and deeper, we expanded OE 11, as you'll see in one of the indicators, to include more of the content areas and to be broader in its address and its specific requirements for our academic program. We also added indicators that are more actionable and timely so that they were things that we could present to the board on or represent to the board in more relevant time and in ways that are more action-oriented for supporting students. And we also did some work that you'll see and that we've talked about where we related indicators that were not related to the academic program. So with that, I will dive into the actual OE11 itself. So the preamble, and I'll stop after each indicator and you can let me know if you have questions or any comments. The preamble, as I said, works to define the goals of the academic program. So all of the components, all the elements are aligned to that preamble. In this first directive to the superintendent, you'll see the first example of where we were moving from more of a passive verb to being more specific to, instead of aligning just curriculum, we wanted to ensure curriculum and instructional strategies are aligned with the standards. And as we've talked about in the study sessions, the purpose for that is that curriculum does not stand alone. The way it is taught, of the strategies by which it is taught, are part of the academic program, essential parts of the academic program. And so we wanted the language to reflect that. We also wanted to focus in on our goals of academic success for all students as aligned with equitable outcomes, and focus on inclusive learning environments, as you can see from the indicators here. So we revised the indicator here to be more open and expansive. And this is the list of all of the indicators, so I'll jump into the actual meat of the indicator so you can see one by one the deeper changes that we made there. So in the proposed changes to interpretation and the superintendent's interpretation, we added strategies there, again, knowing that instructional strategies are core to any academic program. 11.1, we did not change. We left that focused. We felt, as we've talked about in the study sessions, that the alignment here with effective practices and research and with the comprehensive and objective review, our practices there are really solid, and we've expanded them. And you'll see some of the indicators also in OE14, where we talk about using an equity lens and using equity tools. That's reflected in 11.1, in our current processes in 11.1. OE14 calls that out more specifically, but it is part of our current processes. And 11.2, this is where we expanded greatly to refocus our language and to expand into the content areas. So we added science and updated language around NGSS. We added in world language and the standards associated with that. We added in computer science as well. And we added in social studies and the arts into the content areas, in addition to just math, ELA, and science had been called out before. We also updated our language to recognize that power standards are somewhat of an outdated term, that we use Washington State standards, and that we prioritize those standards as needed under the criteria that are essentially the same. We also recognized an updated language to recognize that curriculum, the actual format that curriculum takes now has changed. So instead of calling everything documents, very rarely are things actually documents. They're usually some sort of resource that's updated. So we just updated language to reflect that, as well as the state regularly changes legislation that changes our requirements. And so we wanted that built into policy. That's our responsibility as well. And the academic program is to meet the legal requirements as they change. And that is 11.2. And I'm happy to pause here or keep going. Yeah. Director
Quick
Stewart?
question. Under the social studies section, are basically you including underneath civics, political science, that sort of thing? I just want to make sure I was making sure that I...
Yes, the social studies standards now require geography, civics, economics, and history as part of the social studies standards. So that is something that's included in
So political science would be under the civics?
Sorry?
So political science would be under civics?
Political science would be under civics. It's the standards are actually, I think, fantastic. They have shifted from focusing on specific dates and times or the things that are bound in history to a much more complex understanding of patterns across time, civic responsibility, civil discourse, many different concepts that are interwoven. So they don't call out political science per se. They call it the other parts, the other pieces. But the idea of political science in terms of understanding political forces, resources, the ways different communities impact government or vice versa, that's all interwoven into the standards. So they don't specifically say political science, but they call out the concepts in political science.
I just have a question in regards to knowing that the world language and several of these have moved over and across, and I think the arts would fall into the same concept. It says K-12 learning standards. I know for world language specifically, we don't provide elementary world language access within our classroom. And so I'm just wondering, how is this, whereas that's the standard, how does that play out then when we look at compliance with the, partially because go ahead and answer that question,
Okay.
sorry. I can be quiet.
So part of what drives what is in our academic program, what's required in our academic program, are graduation requirements. And so world language graduation requirements are most applicable, of course, at high school, and we also have the backing down into middle school. World language requirements in the K-5 are, it's interesting. OSPI is, I'll use the word interesting, where there are things that they say are part of the learning and they don't provide space or time or requirements about it. So for example, some of those things that we're working on integrating into our overall program would be the ethnic studies framework, for example. Computer science, again, is something that we are working into our system, but it's been a requirement for several years that we're working in to be able to get to that part where it's more embedded. So world language is the standards at K-5, or actually even through K-8, are fairly, I don't know, it's hard to say that they're a requirement, that the OSPI says that they're standards that we hope that students get to, but they don't put any graduation requirements around it or time or course descriptions like they do, or course requirements like they do for the arts. The arts are different in that OSPI does put specifics into their policy around what happens in middle school, in K-12.
So the piece of where is, I know that this moved from R2, from the results, where we were looking at biliteracy and bicultural using the OSPI's biliteracy. Thank you, SEAL. That's what it was, SEAL of biliteracy and bicultural. And moving it here, my concern is that we're potentially losing some of the work and pieces of speaking to that and being able to build world language as a stronger component. So I'm just trying to figure out if it's going to get lost. There's a potential that it can get added to a results section in either R1. You mentioned graduation requirement. One might argue that that would follow the seal of biliteracy, would actually fall under R1 along with graduation because it is a final component upon graduating. But that's the piece that I'm just wanting to ensure that we're thinking about. We have a dual language immersion at Einstein. We know the impacts of being able to be a multilingual is very positive in regards to academic success. If our goal is really future ready, vision, global citizen, being able to speak more than one language is of high value for our individuals and also for capacity in which to be able to relate to others. So I think that's the piece I'm a little concerned of it falling into here. So I'm just looking for how we can build that elsewhere.
I think that's a great point. And some of the thinking that we've done around where we could define that in academic program and be able to reflect back to the board would be thinking again about seal of biliteracy or in some updates on our work with dual language. Like as we're expanding this next year into Redmond Middle School, it's super exciting that we're now going into middle school program. And we're continuing to look at how do we expand the strand that we currently have at elementary and where and how else can we expand that. At this point, when we think about the size of the program, we don't want to ignore it or forget it. It's a fairly small program. We want to continue to think about expanding it. And we're thinking about how do we balance that in terms of reporting and reflecting to the board and thinking about the depth that we want for R2. So this might be a place to add in more in OE11 in world language in terms of defining our program and what we report on for the program so that we are holding ourselves accountable for that.
Yes, that makes sense in that. So when you think about the indicators and those pieces, that would be the keys. I think I would also challenge that it needs to go into R1 as a totally separate indicator.
Okay. All right, so 11.3, this is one where we again made that shift into having it move from passive voice to more active and including instructional strategies as part of what we're defining as the core academic program. So the language here reflects that. And this is a reflection of how, as you've been through all of our adoption presentations, this is a reflection of the work that we've been headed towards for the past several years. Any questions or comments on 11.3? 11.4, we have updated to add in more of a focus on assessment being growth-oriented. And so the specifics in terms of, we changed a little bit of the language in superintendent's interpretation. And then we added in down below that we're using a universal screener in literacy and math. That aligns with our MTSS work. And then we also wanted to think about it in terms of supporting teachers with assessment resources that are timely and updated, and that we provide learning for teachers as well on assessment.
So, sorry, all K through 8 students are assessed with this universal screener multiple times during the year. Is this something that one passes out on, or is this grade level appropriate? Because when it comes to literacy, I'm concerned about wasting time doing a screener on kids who should be able to read by then.
So it is, it's an adaptive screener. All students K-8 take it. In middle school, they take it in their math and their ELA courses. It's maybe 20 minutes, 12 to 20 minutes per assessment. And it's something that gives more in-depth reading. So it's more
It's a
in-depth
formative
information.
assessment.
Yeah.
Okay. As long as it's grade
It's-
level appropriate. The
Yeah.
way it was phrased here, literacy to me is grade 3 literacy. You should be literate,
Yeah.
and after that.
It's
So-
more, it's not really a formative assessment. It's a moment in time of where students are on a number of different points in literacy. So it's able to help with small grouping. It's able to give teachers more information for instructional grouping.
Okay. I've got greater.
Is there something that would make it clearer?
This isn't a hill I'm going to die on. I've got more important things later.
Okay. Okay. Anything else for 11.4? All right, 11.5. This was the one that it had before really just been focused on CTE, and after discussion, we added language to reflect the board's interest in really having diverse course offerings that allowed students to engage in critical and creative thinking processes. And we called out specifically, we kept CTE and we added arts, STEM, and other areas of high interest to ensure that we were able to follow student interest as we're providing course offerings. We also expanded to include additional workforce settings and expand students' ability to meet their interests in multiple ways. Questions or comments? Okay, all right. 11.6 was one that we were focusing in on really those strategies that promote academic success for students, specific through high quality instruction, inclusive learning environments. This language in the superintendent interpretation, we changed after our last study session, and we tried to really focus it on being clear and understandable so that it would reflect the type of learning and type of instruction that we want for our students.
Director Carlson.
Sorry, this is one where I appreciate the intent, but there's something that really is problematic for me, and that's the last clause of the modified our statement, comma, and ensures equitable outcomes for all students. Equitable supports I can live with, equitable opportunities I can live with, equitable outcomes is a disaster. And I noted that in the superintendent interpretation, that clause didn't even get touched. So I would actually be okay with cutting that clause entirely or modifying it to be either supports or opportunities. But equitable outcomes, if everybody gets a B, that is not success.
I don't think that's what that means.
That's the problem. It's not interpreted, it's not defined, so
Okay.
it means what you
Well-
want it to mean. I think it's a very dangerous phrase to include here unless it's very carefully defined.
Dr. Holman, would you be in a position to provide an interpretation of equitable outcomes?
So I would put it back to the board.
Yeah.
If you maintain your policy as is, then I would bring back an interpretation for the board.
Yeah.
If you take it out, then I won't interpret it.
That's right. That's right. I want to keep it in. To me, it's important. I don't think, well, I would not approve of a superintendent interpretation of equitable outcomes where Dr. Holman says, I interpret that to mean every student gets a B. I don't think that's how he's going to interpret it.
So
we do expect we do as a board, well, I don't know, I'll use I stand. I, as a board member, do expect the district to have an academic program where these outcomes of our students are rooted in equity. And I don't think that to me, that's not that everyone is getting the exact same grade.
And I think that that's a very dangerous phrase, because equity of outcome becomes equality of outcome. It gets very easily misinterpreted. I really do think that this is a toxic phrase that could get us in a lot of trouble. I'm absolutely down with equitable opportunities, equitable supports. I think that we're speaking to providing equitable supports to all of our students. But equitable outcomes, I really do think is a bad phrase for us to put in here, period.
So this might give you a lens into my interpretation as I offer a potential modification. Instead of equitable outcomes, substitute success, and then I would define success as opposed to equitable outcomes.
So ensures success, not equitable success.
It ensures success. I can get behind that. Yes. I'm just very worried about the phrase equitable outcomes. So,
okay.
And yeah.
Director Stewart.
My only point to make in this, I recall going back to when you were up here discussing how equity was built into the new math curriculum. And I couldn't understand how in the world it worked. And you explained to us that it had to do with the method of the presentation of the question and the discussion. And to me, now if we're willing to change, that's fine. But to me, that equitable outcomes feeds into that. But then again, substitute interpretation, I understand. But in my mind, that's what led to an equitable outcome, was a way that the material was presented in a way that would culturally blend with most cultures, if I recall correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. Would be the first time. So is that what you're looking at, or we're looking at as equitable outcomes? I don't know. You tell me.
So when we talked about the math instruction, we were talking about equitable access leading to, yeah. So thinking about, I think you're talking about student discourse, and so we're talking about the instructional strategies where every student's able to engage in the learning.
So the equitable access leads to equitable outcomes, is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm good with ensure success for all students, but I don't think Director LaLiberty is thinking that's a good idea yet.
No,
so let's go ahead.
Don't put words
I did. I just put
Director
words in your mouth.
LaLiberty's
I
mouth.
apologize.
Dr. Holman, could you give me your interpretation of success again, or paraphrase what you said earlier?
Well, I believe throughout the policies, we define success is that every student is achieving at high levels. Mm-hmm. And as you layer in equity, that's the supports that allow students to achieve that high level of success. Mm-hmm. So it's not lowering the bar. Mm-hmm. It's about having high standards for all students. And then equity is about how do you support and provide access to be able to achieve those high standards. And so for me, success would be defined somewhere in that holding of high standards, providing equitable supports to ensure that students have what they need to reach those high standards.
Okay, thank you.
Probably with a few less words than that, but somewhere.
I said paraphrase, yeah. I will be okay with that revision if it's brought forward. And Director Carlson, I did not mean to minimize your concerns.
It's all right. I mean, honestly, this is something where I'm very behind equity in the big picture. I'm just worried about things that leave us open to easy misinterpretation.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that.
Director Stewart? Any?
You wanted to add success at the end, but we already have promotes academic success for all students through high-quality site. Just a thought.
You could just delete the sentence.
A tad redundant, but that's just me.
Agreed.
So add a period at abilities. If you look at the policy, put a period at abilities and strike the.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Anything else on this policy? No.
Okay. And the indicators of compliance are just reflective. They're just calling out the specific strategies.
And that's really what I appreciate about this. That does speak to all the previous clauses and the equitable access, equitable supports. So the indicators are what I want. So thank you for that.
Great, thanks. Okay. 11.7, we added more language around graduation pathways, and we expanded the superintendent interpretation. And added, this was the last bullet point under indicators of compliance, a report on opportunities students have for engaging in extracurricular activities and experiential learning. That was in trying to reflect back to the board and make sure the board had a clear understanding of what are all those different things. Back in the earlier indicator, we talked about making sure students had diverse course offerings, and this one is reflecting beyond course offerings, what opportunities do students have? Okay, thanks. Okay, and 11.8, this was where we had again changed up the superintendent interpretation and the indicators to be more reflective of what we meant by innovation. The main change that the board had requested after the last reading was making sure that we let's see, where is it there specifically? The last sentence and the second paragraph, these can take multiple forms. Really, the part that we added was the recognition and expansion of innovative and/or effective school-based programs. And that was trying to recognize the bright spots that are in the system and expand on those. That was the main change from the last time we met. All right, I'll continue. The next indicator, again, was the one that was specific to technology that we have integrated into the other indicators. So we've removed that. 11.10 was an indicator that was looking at evaluating our programs and practices, and so we added a little bit more language about continuous improvement and some indicators on actually having that be a process that we attend to for continuous improvement process. And we had changed a little bit of language in there to make it be more cyclical.
I actually have a question, not specifically on this, but this is the first time that we've taken a fairly comprehensive approach to these things and been striking entire sections. So does the existing 1110 now become 11.9 going forward, or do we maintain a struck through 11.9 so that 1110 is always refers to 1110?
The plan would be that current 1110 would be future 11.9.
Okay.
And we're doing that in OE 14 as well.
Yeah, I'm just thinking along the lines of versionitis. When you've got people who've been working with it and they make a transition, they might be talking about 11.9, old 11.9, and you might be talking about new 11.9. So anyway, it's your problem, not mine. I just wanted to point it out.
So I think there would be a recommendation to do version tracking just to ensure what changes get made, that is tracked so that you know.
Great, thank you.
Just add a note for crying out loud.
All right, so jumping back in, thinking about 11.10. Any questions or comments on 11.10? All right. Okay. And then 11.11, we again have moved to a different area. 11.12, we did not change.
So that becomes 11.10.
11.13 also is in a different one, as is 11.14, and that's it. OE11.
Any further questions? Okay. So I don't think there was any large changes or requests within that. So it sounds like that is also able to go on to the consent with the minor changes that were recommended. So that would be on the consent agenda then for June 20. Director Holman, Dr. Holman.
Actually, one last truly nitpicky thing. The preamble that got added, there's a high that should be highly. So.
Okay.
I also I just wanted to summarize the request from the board that world language be considered in the seal of biliteracy added to R1. So I heard that. And then 11.6, we're missing an of in one of the sentences, I believe, in the interpretation. So we'll catch that, similar to the highly. And then we will strike the end of 11.6 policy statement so that it no longer reads and ensures equitable outcomes for all. That's because the policy statement actually does a good job of defining success and ties it to all students already. So thank you for that catch, Director Stewart. That was, we could have just kept repeating it a few times in the policy and reinterpreting it over and over.
I make a better editor than I do writer, so.
Yeah, it's a loop. It's a continuous loop. So those are the changes. It will be on consent agenda at the June 20th meeting.
Do you have a question, Director LaLiberty? Okay. All right.
Okay.
Then it will be on the consent agenda for June 20. Thank you.
Yeah.
So with that, we will now move on to results 2.
Okay, results 2. So in thinking about the changes that we just saw to OE11, we expanded the definition of the program. We really focused in on instructional practices. And so that matches with, if OE11 is the umbrella of our academic program, R2 is the deep dive into what was the impact of it. So when we're looking at the changes that we made, those changes were, as you recall from our study sessions, really thinking about how do we show the impact of our academic program. So really focusing in on centering the academic program, thinking about, adding in some of the components of the foundational pedagogy to frame why we're looking at this data so deeply. In many of the places in R2, we did need to do significant alignment and updating of language to reflect current instructional practices or current standards that OSPI has, and really to show the in-depth focus on core academic areas and to expand the indicators to show impact over time. As you'll recall, our data before has pretty much been like a large volume of data about that year, but not really looked at cohorts of students going across years and looking at them specifically in terms of demographics and impacts over time. Another goal is to provide data displays that show the impact of program over time in at least a 3-year cohort chunk. We also wanted to remove indicators that had significant variable measures of accountability. So things where it was difficult to say, like, the indicator was the impact of our program, it was more sort of observational data, or it didn't really show, it didn't really align with key indicators for the overall years that we're looking at. So that was the frame that we went into R2. So when you look at R2, you'll see...
Can I just add real quick? The other piece, and I know you mentioned it, but I want to highlight, not evaluating everything, but really focusing and targeting really key elements of our data as a proxy for overall kind of district performance. And so by doing that, we're actually able to provide the board with much more robust data and analysis around those key areas. And so I think that's the other aspect that, and by doing this, it actually also helps the system to focus their efforts around those key areas as well. For example, targeting kind of key literacy benchmarks in the system, it really does help to set the stage for larger groups of staff kind of targeting those data points, thinking about mathematics differently, I think, than we have previously, and how the system aligns with that. So it's those are the other kind of components, and I know you mentioned that. I just wanted to highlight that as well.
Thanks. The other piece that we really thought about that you'll see when we look at data is we thought the years matter. So the years that we looked at, like 3rd grade, 8th grade, and then high school gets a little bit more between 10th and 11th grade, the years matter because they're key learning points for our students. So thinking about literacy for 3rd grade, that's a really important year for we as a system to hold ourselves accountable and understand what's happening with students. And so doing a deep dive that reflects that is really important. So when you look at the academic interpretation, there's a lot of language change in here. And much of this is to reflect more accurate language, more updated language. In the superintendent interpretation of the top part, the substance hasn't changed. It's just that the language is more reflective of the way that we look at education now. So like redefining think critically has a different definition than it did some years ago. So I'll just give you a moment to look at those. But these pieces haven't changed since we last looked at this in the study session. And looking at 2.1, this before had no language around it, and you can see it has a lot now. And part of that was thinking about, for anyone looking at R2, to understand why there's the data why we picked the data that we did, and how to think about it. So in putting in, instead of just essentially the one sentence that's up above, we aligned with OSPI, with the standards that are there and the language that's there, and put in more language about why third grade, why 8th grade, and why 10th grade, why we're looking at these years and why they're important.
So this isn't a hill that I'm going to take, but in the 8th grade section, the second sentence, measuring indicators at the 8th grade level allows instructional leaders to examine the data with fidelity. Could you tell me what it means to examine data with fidelity?
So this is thinking about when we look at the indicators, you will see, we're using FastBridge again, so we're using the universal screener. We're looking at grades, and I'm recognizing we could write that more effectively. But what we're really saying is we're looking at a set of data that we are able to align and make coherent. So part of why we picked 8th grade, part of the reason for 8th grade was the alignment with math indicators. One of the things that we tried to do with both 3rd grade and 8th grade, and again, harder in high school, was not look at different grade levels. So for 8th grade, we really want to look at the cohort of data. So this is long-winded answer to your question. We wanted to see the picture of the 8th grade student. And our math data at 8th grade is really important. So 7th grade, we have SBA, all these other pieces. So 8th grade, we want to look in depth at the data around literacy as well. And we do want to look at it for how it informs our instructional program and how we're looking at students. But I recognize this is not clear the way it's written, and that if you don't examine data with fidelity all the time, why would you say that?
That's the thing. In 3rd grade, I totally read this and understand it from when I put on my hat of random 3rd grade parent. When I put on the hat of random 8th grade parent and I read about examining data with fidelity, and speaking as a data scientist, I don't know what the hell that meant. So fidelity belongs in phrases like high fidelity reproduction, but here it means nothing. That's all I was really getting at.
I believe the intent behind this language is also ownership. Ownership of the data. And so as you think about a middle school team administrator, having 3 years worth of data around a student that you had impact on, as opposed to choosing 6th grade where you can analyze the data, but your impact on the data hasn't really been realized. And so I think, again,
perfect. Make it
how it's worded, we can change it so that it's more effective and clear. Thanks.
Thank you.
I just have a question actually around the literacy screening as you go up in ages. So what is being screened for literacy at 7th grade? What is being looked at?
Really the same components that you're seeing at 3rd grade, stepped up more. So you're not looking at so much the decoding or those pieces that would be below 3rd grade. You're looking at fluency, comprehension, ability to do text interpretation. You're looking still at reading skills.
So as we have done these tests, you see that a student who had that skill in 6th grade suddenly does not have that skill in 7th grade?
That is relatively infrequent. like typically it tracks, but that would be something that you would look at the student to see what's happening with the student. That data would be important.
So I guess my question would be, are we better off saying we're going to look at students who were not at standard in third grade, and then we're going to track through those students as we... I was just thinking about what's the effectiveness of the whole group,
Right.
when really at that point, if it is the literacy skills, then maybe there's a different piece we need to use. So I just don't know what the functionality is of that at the higher grades and how you respond to it. I know at the lower grades.
Right.
So I guess I don't have the answer to this, and maybe this is follow-up for the board. What's the purpose of universal screeners? And
At the upper ages
Correct.
in literacy.
Correct.
We'll link it at the lower ages.
And what changes, in particular in Fastbridge, that would provide staff leaders, the district, with a different kind of information than we currently have.
Yeah.
And so it's really, is the resource of time for students better spent doing the assessment? And does the data play out such that it's beneficial?
And actually, my concern is for students who did not reach standard by third grade, are we effectively being able to get them to standard in the upper grades? So if we succeeded if it's unlikely that a student who is reading at standard in third grade suddenly is not reading at standard in fifth grade, then maybe we need to be focusing our efforts on the ones who didn't. And so that's just my question. It seems a little broad screening where it might not necessarily be necessary, and maybe targeting is... And maybe you still do it, but the data provided here, I would rather have it focused on students who had not met standard and be able to see what's happening. Or if they're not meeting standard on an SBA, how does it fall out when you have the screener in which to attach it? I think we're trying to figure out here, are we meeting our goals of keeping our kids learning literacy and languages they need to going on? I'm not well-versed enough to say how that changes between third and eighth grade.
So some of the things that we're changing in terms of data. So if you look at before what we used to measure for literacy, we looked at essentially Smarter Balance, then we skipped to ninth grade, earning an ELA credit with C or higher, PSAT, and multilingual students on the ELPA. So you got 4 grade levels with a really quick snippet. So what we've changed is really a couple things. So one is having data that tracks much more deeply. So using Fastbridge, we hadn't had Fastbridge for whatever reason, Fastbridge or Universal Screener. Fastbridge is the product that we use, but we hadn't had a universal screener as part of our math reporting up until the changes that we're seeing here. We had a universal screener for third grade for benchmark. What we didn't have was looking more in depth, so looking at using the report cards reading strands, going more in depth with that, and being able to look, again, at middle school, being able to see where they are with Fastbridge is new to add in there. Looking at students meeting standard with on the SBA, and then thinking about grades in eighth grade. So what we've done, so there's a couple things. We're measuring more things that are more reflective of a holistic picture of instruction for specific grade levels. And this was the change that you've seen before, and that we will be tracking, providing data for 3 years, cohorts for 3 years. So that you'd be able to see, like, here's where these students are in eighth grade, and here's where what they've done over time. That was answering one of the big questions: is what is the impact over time? And I could thinking about Fastbridge at or Universal Screener at for eighth grade, it is a lot of the same things that same components that we're measuring at elementary school, but at the middle school level. So thinking about reading at grade level, decoding at a sophisticated level, reading speeds. Comprehension of complex topics, those are the same things that we're measuring, and teachers use them in the same way. So small group work, supporting students for differentiation, all those same pieces. But I can definitely bring back more specific information.
It'd be helpful. The other piece, just recognizing if you have 3 different types of indicators that are all sort of measuring the same thing, students are going to fall out very differently within each of those, and it's going to look a little muddled in some regards. And so being able to say, are they at standard in all 3, and actually being able to track that component will provide some idea as to, one, how relatable are these between each other, because they could be completely different than what they're actually looking at. And so I think those are just some of the pieces I'd pay attention to. Chris.
My apologies, I'm actually still back on page 4. But I understand 3rd grade, and I understand 8th grade. Can you explain to me why I care about sophomores? No, I mean, seriously, if we're going to do a high school metric in the ELA thing, why isn't it seniors? When we're done with it.
The Smarter Balance assessment is done.
Because the assessment's given it the wrong grade. So why don't we try and figure out some way to do it when we're done with them, rather than when they do the measurement?
So I'll give one answer, and Dr. Rose will probably give a different answer. How about that? I believe one of the benefits is it's the first assessment post-middle school, and for any student that passes SBA math and literacy, their graduation pathway is set. So it's one indication of being on track to graduate, and so to me that's a key benchmark in terms of high school. And so for any student that doesn't pass SBA math or reading, they have to either retake it, they have to do a CTE pathway, take the ASVAB. So there's other activities that a student that's already, if you're not passing SBA, you're struggling.
Right.
Right?
So thank you for that definition. These words didn't give me that.
Okay.
So
Okay, we can
please.
revise that.
Thank you.
And we do have the same answer.
Oh, excellent. Okay, great. So I just want to update the superintendent's interpretation with more clarity around why.
Yeah, I mean, it's got 10th grade is the last time we have the ability to examine data from a state assessment. So what?
Yes.
10th grade is the point at which we are measuring whether they are using this pathway or that pathway. That matters to me. The fact that it's the last time we measured it, who cares? That's just the state imposing some stupid deadline on us. I like John's answer a lot better.
Okay. Do you have?
No, I was just going to say I'm glad this is being recorded.
I have just sort of a structural wonder. So we are adding to this policy for the first time, sort of a following the policy. Then there's a narrative, explanatory statement around why we think certain measurements are important or telling. And I don't. I either think, well, I've been wrestling with this because I actually think I asked for this. But now that I'm thinking about it, it's not policy, and it's not, I just feel like it's either part of the superintendent's interpretation that we would approve or not approve that interpretation of why the superintendent is proposing certain measurements to measure the policy, or it's an appendix or a footnote or something. It's not policy, though, I guess. So maybe I've been too much in the weeds in terms of that. But I do like having our policies be very clear and concise. And I appreciate, and I think it's important to report out why we believe these measurements are important and telling. But I think it structurally should be somewhere else.
I would recommend including it in the superintendent's interpretation, and this is why. For anyone who's interested to truly dig into the board's results policies, to try and put all of the pieces together, if they're in multiple locations, I would find it to be difficult. And so including it in what I would hope would feel like a cohesive read of results policy, superintendent's interpretation, indicators, and data would provide a different level of clarity than if we put it in an appendix.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. Too much moving up and down. Yeah.
And so I hear you to move those elements into the superintendent's interpretation because it isn't policy.
It's not. And I think it's important to have. But
great. We'll do that throughout the policy.
Yep.
So those are we can clearly go back and forth. Those are the main changes that we made to literacy. Math was another place where we had made quite a bit of change.
Can I just add one more piece around literacy? I also want to recognize that we're including the WAAIM data into our results. WAAIM is an alternative assessment that a number of students that qualify for IEP services, they take an assessment that's aligned with standards and aligned with their IEP. We had never reported on the success rates of our students on WAAIM previously. Those data will be incorporated moving forward in results too as well.
So this I just wanted to highlight again. You've seen this several times, the data visualization and analysis, and that is responding to being able to present data in a way that makes sense and shows the depth of impact of the program. So math, absolutely heard that moving the commentary into superintendent interpretation is important. 8th grade was where, since the last reading, we actually added in a couple different things. So one is adding in the universal screener at 3rd grade and at 8th grade. 8th grade, when you last saw this, we've been going back and forth between 7th grade and 8th grade. And as I was just saying, we landed on 8th grade because that has such an important math component to it. And that was one of the indicators that we wanted to call out and not have it be 7th grade ELA or literacy and 8th grade math. We really wanted it to be looking at the class of students. So the pieces that we added in are for elementary, we added in a focus again on 3rd grade and added in WAAIM for 3rd grade. And we added in the element of percentage of grade 3 students with an average of 3 or above on mathematic domains in 3rd grade report card. And that is, again, looking at how do we get beyond a test, or even though it's a 3 times a year snapshot, we wanted to get beyond SBA to really think about how are we getting into instruction on that. So that's what we added into 3rd grade, and we added that same piece in 8th grade in a slightly different way, which was looking at percentage of grade 8 students with grades of C or higher in 8th grade mathematics courses. And that could be, as we've shared, we're moving to a pathway that all students will be able to access algebra by 8th grade. We've got a little bit of time before that's completely standard. But our students, 8th grade math courses could be geometry, algebra, 8th grade math at this point. We also added in that last component there, percentage of grade 8 students enrolled in or who have taken algebra by 8th grade as a data point for 8th grade.
So I'm going to catch this before the board does. If you stay right where you're at. The way we wrote the algebra statement here, that really is more of an operational expectation as opposed to a result or an outcome. And so it's about the success in algebra by 8th grade. And so we may report both, but we need to have a success statement as opposed to just participation. And so I just cued into it as I saw this here, so we'll need to update that.
Thank you for catching that. Dr. Carlson.
Indeed, thank you for catching that. So in looking at this, it's interesting to me, grade 3 is a very, it's a transition, it's a key point in ELA. Grade 3 is not so much a key point in mathematics. I would be happier if we didn't grade 5, which is the end of algebra, as the benchmark for elementary. The end of algebra, you're getting into rate, ratio, and proportion and moving towards...
End of elementary. 5th grade.
5th grade is when we're supposed to be finishing arithmetic. Sorry, that was my point.
Yes.
And so 5th grade is a more, from the mathematical growth of the child, is much more of a transition year, and that's the summative elementary experience for a very important topic. 3rd grade, it's the first time we have a data point on them, but that's kind of like saying it's really important for us to report our DIBELS scores from kindergarten for ELA. I'm not as worried about 3rd grade as I am about 5th grade when it comes to math. So
you would get it in the cohort data coming forward. You'd get 3rd, 4th, and
3rd and 4th would build into it, but 5th is the one that if you're going to take a slice through it is sort of the benchmark for, if they haven't got it at 5th grade, now they're moving into pre-algebra, and if they haven't got arithmetic by that point, they're in trouble. So it's, again, it's a very good benchmark year to know that these students are ready for the progression that they're going to be moving into, rather than third grade for math. I was also thinking just in terms of if we're going to make these really sort of pulse points on the organization, your third grade teachers are going to go insane if they're the pulse point for both math and ELA. So if you make fifth grade math and third grade ELA, at least it lets you distribute the anxiety across the system a little bit more evenly.
Yeah, and the decision for that, absolutely, I don't disagree with you, but the decision for that was thinking about the board's interest for a deep dive into a grade level to see that really reflected. But it is one of those things where we have to make choices about what data we reflect.
So I believe because of the cohort component, where you'd be looking at multiple grade levels, that fifth grade for math does make more sense because you're still getting third. And it seems to fit better with the development that's expected along the academic line.
So then the measurement point that would be the formal reporting one would be fifth grade for math?
Exactly. I mean, just basically take your grade 3 and lift it over to grade 5, and I'm happy with that. It just makes more sense from that field's development. And I do like that we have cohort built in there, because that does get back to the beginning of when we measured on these kids.
I'll ask that on the microphone. I have to ask a question
Yes,
that I
go
should know
ahead.
the answer to, but I'll say it aloud, admitting I don't. My question was, do we have the same state assessments for fifth graders as we do for third graders? And Director Blesner reported yes.
She reported accurate.
Okay, thank you.
Third through eighth grade, we have ELA and math, and then 10th grade again, ELA and math.
Okay, thanks.
So those are the main changes to literacy, ELA, and math.
Hang on, was everyone else comfortable with shifting to fifth grade? I guess we had 2.5.
Director Liberty, go ahead.
Oh, I don't know. I just hadn't thought about it all of a sudden, and I feel like cars went whizzing by in front of me, and it was you and Dr. Carlson.
It's all right. I mean, I apologize for this. I spent several months on the last Washington State panel that wrote standards for elementary math. And so just as in ELA, you have through third grade, you're learning to read. After third grade, you're reading to learn. If you haven't learned to read, you're in trouble. And from the arithmetic development through fifth grade, you're building up all of those key pieces. Once you get past that, you're sort of doing pre-algebra. You're doing rate, ratio, and proportion. It's a shifting of gears. And basic numeracy, fifth grade, is the point at which you can say you're done with that piece and moving into pre-algebra. And so I apologize. It's just something where I happen to have been through way too much of that with colleagues down in, I can't even remember where we did that. It's been, oh my God, it's been 17, 18 years.
It makes a compelling case.
So, yeah, it's been a little while.
Okay.
But apparently it scarred me because I remember it.
So it sounds like there's agreement to go ahead and go to fifth.
Sure.
Okay.
Got it. Okay. The shifts in science, and again, understood for the interpretation parts of it, the shifts in science, we're moving more towards NGSS language.
Oh, sorry. Can we go
Yeah.
backwards real quick? For the same reason that we had the narrative explaining why we were doing measuring third grade literacy, having that in the superintendent's interpretation, assuming that what Director Carlson just said is accurate, I think having that in the superintendent interpretation, explaining why we are measuring fifth grade would be helpful.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And also, last thing on the 10th graders, thank you for including the PSAT in both ELA and math. I appreciate that.
Okay. So science, the language again was essentially updated to reflect NGSS and more of the terms coming directly out of those publications, out of NGSS. So not significant changes in there in the interpretation. The changes in the indicators were again focusing in on fifth grade, and the reason we picked fifth grade was the WCAS is in fifth grade, and that was something that we again felt like the state tests are important for us to include in our results. and added in the science domains on the 5th grade report card. Same thing with 8th grade science, looking at the report card strand or at grade level with C or above in 8th grade science courses, and pulling in the WCAS and the WAIM and the WAIM for middle school. And high school got interesting because I do think it's important that if there's a state assessment that we are reflecting how we do on that. The WCAS at 11th grade is problematic because about 30% of our students take it. So we can continue to report it, or there might be opinions about that on the board.
You might imagine I have strong opinions on this one, and if only 30% of the kids are sampled, and they're the kids who are not ambitious enough to take the day off or whatever the other 70% are doing, it's absolutely not a random sample of our students. I find that a useless data point. Go ahead and get it out of here.
I was just going to recommend that we remove it from the results reporting until it's mandated. And,
if it's mandated, then you can
then we have 95+% students taking it.
Yeah.
But you're right, it doesn't serve the board really much purpose. And so, Dr. Rose, is there another high school science data element that could provide the board with?
So it's a difficult one. And the reason it's difficult is that the graduation requirements in science are, for thinking about the CATERs, the students need to take 2 lab classes and then 1 science class, which can be lab or not, before they graduate. So it's a little bit difficult because there's not a take this first class and the second class and this third class. The traditional pathway is biology, chemistry, physics. But that's not mandated, so students can take different pathways. So what we looked at here was putting in percentage of grade 10 students with a C or higher in 10th grade science courses. But that's difficult because that could be biology, it could be chemistry, it could be AP physics, it could be forensics. Students have many choices in science. They just need to take 2 lab and then 1 additional lab or not science in order to graduate. So
what about reporting on track to graduate? Mm-hmm. And so I'm putting that out there. If you don't have 2 credits by your junior year, end of your junior year, you would not be on track to graduate. Mm-hmm. I would pose probably maybe even 10th grade, and so that might also, so identifying a grade level that we're evaluating grades, so a success rate, and then another evaluating on track to graduate.
Given that it's not a 4-year requirement, I think it's entirely reasonable to say end of junior year, are they on track to graduate? Mm-hmm. It's 2 plus a lab, right? Mm-hmm. Is the
right
2 labs plus.
Yeah.
So a minimum of you'd have to have at least one of your lab sciences completed by your junior year.
So,
is it just a question? At the end of your junior year, as you face your senior year, is that too late to really be able to make up those credits or not? My concern is that seems like it's on the eve of destruction almost for the students' GPA or graduating requirements. I don't know. You tell me, because can a graduate, if he or she is short that much, is a junior graduation reality or not?
Yeah. Do you know what we might do? We might benefit from just looking at the data, talking to our high schools to find out, when are they starting to get concerned, and we'll bring that back to the board as the data, the interpretation of the data element.
Mm-hmm. Talking to some of the parents, I think they start getting concerned at kindergarten, but that's
so in that interesting way of putting it, that there would be 2 time points that are useful in that. The first is the first point at which they could possibly be on track, which I believe is the end of 10th grade. And the second is the last point at which they can recover. And so that would be the end of 11th, I think, that going into 12th, have they got less than 1 year of science left to take? So, anyway, I'd be interested in either of those, or both.
Okay. Great.
given that this is sort of a substantive issue to be resolved, I think for this, I'm just going to go to the end. I don't think this should come back on consent agenda. I'd like to have just, if we can just highlight this particular component, but I do think having an opportunity to talk about it in an open meeting is a good idea.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Okay. So those are the substantive things that we added. The rest of R2 you've seen where we took out pieces that either got moved into OE11 or were somewhat iffy measurements. That's not the formal way to say it, iffy measurements. So that the R2 really did provide a deep dive of relevant and important indicators.
So does R2, does that become the modern home of the AP test results?
I believe R1 is where we've reported AP results in the past.
Okay. Because the APs really are a subject matter thing that could be put in here as sort of a lot of our standard, or a lot of your indicators here are the floor. And I'm interested in the ceiling as well. And so that would be something you could include there as additional indicators.
So is it about AP or is it about dual credit? Because we also have students that are attending school on college campuses participating in science, and it's not technically AP.
Right. If it's a science class, in many ways, this gets at some of the questions beyond science. It's in high school you have different subject arenas, and the AP. I'm more interested in having an AP biology result than an AP science result. But dual credit, absolutely. If people are taking WANIC or whatever other dual credit courses, great. But that's not. They sort of split out as their own units for reporting. But fortunately, there are fairly discrete units, like how many kids took them and how well did they do.
So as we think about the focus of R2, are there specific, because I understand your question, are there specific courses that you believe would provide, if you will, a better proxy for the overall student ceiling as opposed to others?
Unfortunately, it's a combination. I mean, I don't know for sure. Evan might have some input on this, but I think that our most commonly taken AP would probably be bio. And so that one's a broad indicator across the system. But there is value in knowing how many kids took AP Physics C. There are different measures of success for the system. And here's the part where, as far as indicators go, maybe this belongs in the OE, simply because I'm not interested in specifying how many kids have to pass it. I am interested in knowing how many kids passed it, but I don't think that's a criterion for success on the district. Mm-hmm. So.
I might suggest that in addition to the importance of AP Bio or AP whatever other science you would like to designate, that the language arts and the histories are just as important.
Absolutely, and actually, I didn't mean to
sure you
dispute that. You had the PSAT for ELA. We don't have the PSAT for science, so I was just looking for something else that's an external.
I'm wondering too, what percentage are we looking at to get that ceiling? What percentage of students really are we looking at in order to attain that ceiling reading? I don't know.
I wonder, so one of the overlaps that we saw when we were looking at all the different pieces was thinking about dual credit, including AP in college and the high school, is an indicator in OE14.
Well, in results one, we measured dual credit. I mean, but I think, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Director Carlson, but I think what you're saying is that student success in, for example, AP Bio would be could be a measure of the district's performance in science, right? And for results too.
I was just casting about for something equivalent to the PSAT. And the science indicators, we don't have something like that that's universally applied to all of our students at a given grade level.
Yeah.
But at least AP Bio is one where we can track what fraction of our kids are taking it and how is that fraction of kids performing on it.
Well, I guess I would offer, I would guess a large majority, 90+%, that's my guess tonight, of our high school students take biology. So is success in biology, would that be a good measure? And then breaking it out by biology, AP Bio.
And this is, sorry, the indicators that are currently proposed, a C in biology to me does not particularly equate to success in biology. I know that Director Stewart and I have slightly different opinions on this matter, but it's something where that to me is a floor. And if you just barely made it over that floor, you're not prepared for a STEM career. You're not going there with a C in biology. Now, not everybody has to do a STEM career.
Exactly.
Which is totally legitimate. But for the kids who are going to try and go that direction, I think asking have they got a C in biology, I'm not really that interested. So for the kids who do take AP biology, how well do they do on the AP is of interest to me.
So I'm not sure we're going to settle this this
No,
evening.
I'm exploring. This is a brainstorming.
Right.
Apologize.
So I'm thinking that it might be something that we need to think on that just a little longer. But Evan, would love to hear from you.
Oh, this is just really quick. On the idea of the sciences and science classes, bio versus physics, whatever, I just want to make sure that when we consider if we implement something like that at all, you try and I struggle with the idea that you can get a quality result, even if we're not tracking it, a quality result of anything from just one type of science class. At least I would consider, to me, there are two different kinds of science classes. You have your math-based sciences, which are your chemistries and your physics, and you have your more English and reading-based sciences. That's still definitely a math, but your environmental science. Bio kind of straddles the line, but I think it's a little bit more on the reading and writing side. Just because I know kids who did fine in biology freshman year, but then excelled in physics and chemistry because of their math kids. So if we are thinking of science in science classes, I don't know if I would say, try and figure out a way to track as much as you can, but at least try and identify what are the two, maybe you split it up into a third, what are the subgroups of those sciences that we're hoping to look at, because, tracking success in environmental science and tracking success in chemistry is going to give you wildly different results because it's wildly different kids.
So I'm hearing definitely a need to gather more data. Some of the data that we've already said that we need is thinking about would reporting on track to graduate by the end of junior year would be a really important one. We could also look at what does looking at AP or dual credit or 1X science classes tell us? Does that give us something that would be a relevant measure and be able to bring that back? Because we have such rich offerings that to narrow down to this strand or that strand doesn't really allow, it doesn't allow the opportunity to recognize what great offerings we do have and the experiences our students have.
And I wouldn't even limit it to science. If we open the door on APs, then look at the APs that are available.
So I hear R2 needs a good amount more work to come back for second reading and evaluation.
There's tweaking.
Tweaking. We can do that.
This is a great start. I don't mean to give you any sense that I am frazzled. This is really meaningful changes, trying to focus and get at stuff that's important. So thank you. It's a draft, and I agree with Director LaLiberty. Definitely would like to see it come back non-consent.
So we're gonna target bringing this at August 7th at that board meeting. The timeline to get it done well by June 20th. Yes, graduations and whatnot. Great.
Great.
Thank you, Dr. Rose.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Glad we finally got it on the agenda and we're able to walk through it. So thank you. All right. Next item is the superintendent report. So Dr. Holman.
Okay, I have a number of updates for the board. Given the public comment about Sammamish River Valley Online, I will provide the board with an update around that as well. So you can expect that in the coming days. There we go. You can see here a whole slew of graduations and ceremonies over the coming period of time. This weekend, on Sunday, a number of us participated in the Eastside Native American Education Program Eagle Feather Ceremony. 7 students from Lake Washington, Bellevue, North Shore participated in the event. I believe Mary said there were 13 graduates this year, but only 7 were able to participate. For those 7 students, it was about a 2.5-hour ceremony with great, very individualized stories and connections being told about each one of the students, and the connection and support that ENAP provides for those students. To hear the success of these students, they're highly connected to their community, they're highly connected to their culture, their language. Hearing about one of the young gals who was the first in ENAP to receive her native name through the ENAP program. It was so powerful to hear the stories, to see the elders here. Kelly Pease was invited to be one of the official observers, I believe was the title. With the elders at the ceremony. There's a group out of Seattle that this is the 2nd year in a row that they've brought native blankets for the students, and to hear Arlie talk about what does a blanket mean in native cultures, you walk away from that with your bucket filled. And we're so privileged to have Mary have been working in Lake Washington, and we will recognize her appropriately in the coming months as she's stepping away, which was on the board's agenda last month. The first item here, you see, it is Pride Month. At our last board meeting, I talked about the raising of the Pride flag at all of our sites. With anxiety, I asked my team to check and double check that every site was prepared for that, because I wanted to make sure that we got it right at all of our sites, and so I appreciate my team indulging me and double and triple checking, because that's important, because you only get one chance to do it right the first time, and so I really appreciated all of the effort that went into getting it right on June 1st. Listed on our website is a protocol for how we'll walk through the month, because on Juneteenth, we'll also, over that weekend, we'll also be raising the Juneteenth flag at the locations that have it appropriately lit. And then again on June 20th, we'll also have the Juneteenth flag when students are back in session. And then on June 21st, the Pride flag will be again raised on our flagpoles. And then this is the last day of school coming up here. And for our seniors, it's a little bit sooner. For our preschoolers, it's a little bit sooner. And then the official last day is June 23rd. And then if I had a July calendar, you'd see many, many students coming back to school for summer programs. I just heard from our Wannet campus that they have over 950 students already registered for summer programs. So it will be a busy summer like it always is, but always excited to participate in our graduations and to see our students walk across the stage. Wanted to update you. I know the board saw the video that I sent you. I launched the inclusion video series, and you can see here over on the right, we have a number of different videos that will be coming out just to gain perspective. I received a number of communications from staff, from families, just asking questions, and so it's actually been really helpful to have the video series go out so that we can answer questions, get the good news out of this work that's going on, and to recognize this is not easy work that our staff are engaged in. And so just wanted to recognize that this is ongoing.
Hello, I'm John Holman.
Nope, not going to do that. I am John Holman, but I don't want that video to... I'd rather talk about Daya Modi, sophomore at Tesla STEM High School. This was launched communicated in our connections earlier this week, and I just wanted to recognize her for this great accomplishment. You can see here she was the lead role in a film that was featured at the Seattle International Film Festival. Over 2 months, 8 hours a day of filming to get this produced, and so it's exciting to have our students again just participating in so many different things, and this is quite a unique accomplishment. So just wanted to congratulate her and recognize her for this accomplishment. Spring sports. I'll run through a few. I don't know if Evan is going to capture this for me as well. I don't want to steal his thunder, but our sports, our clubs, our activities provide a unique way for our students to connect. And with our sports, many students participate for the collective community aspect and for the competition. And so we've had our state competitions, and I just wanted to share some of those highlights with you. Our baseball and fast pitch, we were well represented. Eastlake High School actually won a state championship this year in baseball, which winning a state championship is so hard. And so, and I would say getting second place in state might actually be a bit harder. And so I want to recognize Lake Washington High School. Juanita won the 3A KingCo and then ultimately went to state as well. So kudos to our baseball and fast pitch teams from across the district. In soccer, we had both Eastlake and Lake Washington participate in the state event. In girls track, you can see we had a number of participants that went to the state meet in running, pole vault, jumps, throws, and you can see Diana Williams went to state in 3 different events. She won in the ambulatory javelin and discus. She's a state champ. And again, so hard to win a state championship, and so proud of the representation from across the district. Our boys represented by all 4 of our comprehensive high schools at the state event this year. In tennis, we had both girls and boys participating in the state event. Lake Washington High School girls team placed 6th in 3A. Redmond had 2 single places, 2nd and 5th place. And then the Redmond boys as a team came in 3rd with one of their athletes getting 4th place in the singles. And then in boys golf, our team out at Eastlake participated in the state championship and as a team got 5th place. And that's my superintendent's update tonight.
All right, thank you. So the next item is public and community affairs.
Yes. starting with this last weekend on Saturday, I attended the 41st LD's Community Town Hall, where Representative Tana Sin and Representative Milan Tai, as well as State Senator Lisa Wellman, participated, took questions covering education issues and other issues important to the community. It's always a good, it's always a better indication as to how wide the interest is in education when you get a broader audience like that. In my mind, you don't just get those of us narrowly interested in the education process, but it was well attended, a couple of dozen, I think. And beginning on the 13th, we will have meetings with our state reps and state senators. We kick off with Senator Patty Cooter, the 48th, on the 13th, and we will conclude, it looks like, on the 25th with Representative Dewar. All but one are virtual, with Larry Springer being the outlier. But we shall meet with them and see where their take is on the next session. I don't think they were barely recovered from the last session, but that's what they get for reelecting. Anyway, I think that really pretty much takes it. There's some other local things, but I'll cover those in board comments.
All right, thank you. So with that, we will move to board member and student board rep comments. Director Stewart.
Yes, I'm glad that Superintendent Holman referred to the raising of, or pardon me, the Pride Month. I attended on the 31st the City of Sammamish's Gay Pride flag raising. It was well attended by, I can't say, a good 100 folks. Virtually every, well, no, I think every city council person that attended. I think there was some other folks that really, some state folks, but also East Side Fire and Rescue. I mean, you name it, they all came out to this, and it was fantastic and very gratifying to see a broad swath of the community participating. I also attended, along with Superintendent Holman and President Bleasner and Vice President Choi, the East Side Native American Education Program graduation. This one holds a very special meaning to me for a variety of reasons, but the concentration on the importance of including the elders in a person's growing is very important. For my grandparents helped raise me. And I think that you miss out so much of the history of your family, of your people, if you don't have contact with the elders. I also recall when I joined one organization, and we had most of our board members were in their 60s, and we had some staff members that just couldn't relate to anybody in their 60s. I had no problem because I've been around them for years. But it's a moving program, and Mary will be hard to replace and greatly missed. One of my favorite people in the district.
Okay, I have a bit. Since unfortunately I won't be here next week, I am, not next week, next meeting, I am stealing a little bit of my time for that. I want to leave on a positive note, so I'm going to start with the less positive stuff. I would be remiss if I was to ignore the frustrations and anxiety of the students I represent at Juanita High School, even if I recognize that this will be continued at our next board meeting. Students of Juanita High understand that there are unfortunate realities that come with enrollment, budgets, and staffing at the district level. They are not asking for the district to come up with a magical solution that solves all of their woes. But for a district that has already forced these performing arts students to rent their own instruments on their own, fundraise for their competitions and trips on their own, and collapsed many of their advanced programs into either a combination of beginner classes or into 0 periods, forcing those students to add an even earlier arrival time and extra period into their schedule. All you've left them with is their teachers. These teachers foster a unique community with students who may otherwise fail to find community within our schools. So, while they understand that there are unfortunate realities with a budget, it begs the question, if we've already made them support themselves on their own in all of these other ways, and we take away their teachers, what are we doing? I can't help but empathize with their feelings of frustration, feelings of hopelessness, and dejection, as the last major resource the district was providing to them is being reduced. Please reconsider the areas that we are cutting with this budget and what that says to our students about what our district really values. Taking away Juanita's music teachers in classrooms, whether they are completely gone, their programs are condensed, or they are forced to spend significant time away from the communities that they've developed, after already providing minimal support, tells these students that we don't care about them. All right. After that, I just wanted to add a couple other things. First off, speaking on Juanita Volleyball, I want to give them an extra shout out because that team went to state while having 1 senior. They're going to be running it back next year, and I am extremely excited for them. Also, our our high school communities are continuing to come together towards the end of the year, as they so often do. Juanita hosted a very successful flag football tournament for students who often are not provided the opportunity to enjoy football in an environment. It was on our field. We had our pep band playing. We had the cheerleaders there. It was really incredible because those students got to feel that Friday Night Lights feeling that a lot of them wouldn't have the chance to feel otherwise. There's also, I've heard talk of multiple volleyball tournaments or a staff basketball game at Lake Washington, or International Foods Night that happened in May at ICS. All of these are just wonderful examples of our high schools towards the end of the year, those communities continuing to come together and continue to get stronger in our post-pandemic reality. Speaking of communities, I'm also very excited, and I hope you all are too, for our lip dubs for the schools that are choosing to do it, or at least continue to do it post-pandemic, which is our very long shot of all the students in our schools lip singing to songs, and it's super fun. Finally, since I unfortunately won't be here next week, I just wanted to thank the board for the wonderful opportunity you provided me to take part in the board process. I know that the nature of the board is that our work this year is akin to planting seeds in a garden that at least I will probably never get to see. But I have trust that our work this year will continue to promote positive experiences for our students as years pass. Thank you to the board for this experience, and that I will continue to carry on with me as I go to college and continue my educational journey.
And we would be remiss without saying thank you very much for being willing to step up into a new position and sort of create it as you go, and your willingness to engage. And consistently, every time I have been at these meetings with you, I walk away with new insight and new ways to think about things. So I greatly appreciate all that you did in bringing that forward, and we look forward to the new round of student reps that you've helped build that program. So thank you. Director Liberty.
And I just want to report to the board that this past week, Director Choi and I and Dr. Ross joined us as well. We've been starting that process for adding 3 more student representatives to the board for next year. 2 from the west side of the district, where we'll be, since we're losing Evan, and then an additional student from the east side of the district. So we've reviewed applications. We met with students over the weekend, and we still have a ways to go, but it's clear that they will have big shoes, it'll be tough to follow Evans Act, but we will have some talented students joining us. So it's been a really neat process so far. Looking forward to welcoming 3 new student representatives next year.
Yeah, I'm sorry I was remiss in the ENAP discussion. There was a young lady that spoke, a freshman, I mean, with poise of a college senior, I'm sorry. I went up, I had a chat with her about it, said, you see those 2 seats over there for board reps? I expect to see you up there in 2 years. She was fantastic.
Director Carlson.
Getting back to earlier one of the OGPs, I, at a previous meeting, had announced my intentions to tender my resignation as of June 30th. Well, it turns out that we don't meet on June 30th. So I really hadn't thought that through quite properly. The next meeting after that will be August 7th, and I will be at that meeting, and that is my revised plan. So we will make that work.
And the board will take the appropriate steps in which to address the vacancy based on those components and as well as what our policy states. So we will know more at the 20th. We can announce what that will be. Excellent. Thank you. All right. So the few other things I'd like to say, and Evan, I just want to say, really, it's fabulous, the work you've done. I don't think I could highlight that anymore. But I do have a few other things I have to say. So I wanted to know that at the study session on 5/22, we had talked about a board committee to support drafting a sustainability policy. So Director Choi and Director LaLiberty had volunteered to be on that committee. And as per policy, they're going to draft the structure, objectives, and timeline for that committee. And that will be brought to the board at the 6/20 meeting in which to be able to approve that going forward.
Including the ultimate membership of that committee.
Yes, including the ultimate membership of the committee.
It's a committee to form a committee that we have right now.
That is what we have. So the next thing is that Director Choi and I have met with Dr. Holman to continue to refine the board work plan based on the feedback. Ideally, the work plan, I'm betting the August 7th agenda is when it's going to come back to. It might be June 20th, depending if we're able to get the time in with the graduations. And just so you are aware, he showed you the start of graduations and that whole list. So we will all be at those at different times, and so it is a great time to be able to see our students and all that they accomplish in that process, and it's a great time for our community to come together to celebrate a great milestone for our students. So look forward to being able to do that with our community. And that's it. Any other comments? All right, so we do have our next board meeting, just so people are aware, it's scheduled for Tuesday, June 20th. This is a change from the prior schedule, and it's on a different day because Monday is Juneteenth, June 19th. So the meeting will start, study session will be at 5 p.m. with a board meeting at 7 p.m. And with that, I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn the June 5th, 2023 board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Director LaLiberty and seconded by Director Carlson to adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.